Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of Dumfries Common Good Subcommittee. Now, could all members please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting? Write and speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute, and if you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. If members could please do this instead of putting your hands up online, if that's possible. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it's intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting, so that we can keep track of whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly and directly into the microphone when making contributions, and when referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Now, please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. Now, Ivor?
There's a problem with the Wi-Fi because we can't get logged on to do the putting your hands or speak through the chat. So is it all right if we put our hands up today?
Yeah, you can put your hand up in the room, that's all right. It's just easier to follow if it's in the chat for all those online, but no worries. Thanks. Right, SEDD written apologies. Darren, can you provide the SEDD written any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we have apologies from Paula Stevenson. I can't quite see the full screen, so I'm maybe just going to ask, I think I saw Councillor Malcolm Johnson joining. And is Councillor Dorwood present as well? Okay, that's perfect. So, yes. One apologies. We have five members in Council Hall and others on Teams.
Thanks, Darren. And I confirm my agreement to participation of members participating remotely. Now, item number 2, declarations of interest. Do any members have any declaration of interest or statement of connections? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll have to declare an interest in item 4 due to a connection.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, I know members on in item 4 on both sides, but it's just through being a councillor and various activities. I've been at council things and various members have been there, but that's as close, so I don't think I need to leave the room.
Thanks, Ivor. I think many of us fall into that bracket, yeah. So I don't see anyone else online with the declaration, so I'll move to agenda item number 3, the minute of previous meeting of 22nd of March 2023. Members agree that approve this minute? Thank you. Then we go on to agenda item number 4, Lorburn Hall, Dumfries report by Head of Economy and Development. Now, this report provides members with an update on the bids received to lease the Lorburn Hall. You will have read that the 2 bids were received by the closing date of the 22nd of April. Neither of these bids represented best consideration, as market rent is estimated to be circa £50,000 per annum. As a result, the bids were assessed using the less than best consideration scoring framework. Bids were assessed and the score on the framework based on the disposal of land by Local Authority Scotland Regulation General Guidance and agreed by Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee on the 23rd of March 2023. As these proposals are for a long-term lease and cost proposals were scored over a 10-year period. And for absolute clarity, the bids have been assessed and scored on information contained within the bids which were submitted by the closing date on the 22nd of April. Now we have Paul McCulloch's in the no, he's not. He must be online. Is Paul online? Yep. Paul McCulloch online for any questions on the report. Julie Shannon from Legals on Teams for any legal matters pertaining to the common good. And we have Catherine Swan from the scoring panel for any questions. Can I first start by saying I'd like to thank both the bidders. The Lorburn Hall has been a constant in all of our lives. Now, I've attended numerous events over my lifetime, dancing displays and Radio 1 road shows and dog training, roller discos, pet shows, you name it. There's numerous things I went to throughout my life. So you can imagine how many things the whole community have attended. Now, the hall means a lot to Doonhamers. So thank you for the time and effort that you've put into preparing these bids to keep Lorburn Hall at the heart of Dumfries. I really appreciate it. So I'll move to, well, first of all, Paul, do you have anything to add to the report?
Nothing to add, Chair.
Thanks, Paul. So I'll move to discussions. Do members have any comments, any questions?
Just, yes, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Slater, you wish to speak?
Yes, I do, yes. Sorry, I can't get online here.
You can stick your hand up in the hall. It was just for
right,
online I
okay.
was meaning.
I believe it's a 25-year lease. But is there break clauses in this lease? What I mean is, usually there's break clauses put in, because 25 years is a long time, and sometimes people may want to come out of the lease early, and there's usually break points put in, maybe say at 3 or 5 years, because 25 years is a long time to sign a lease for. So what I'm saying is there are break clauses put in so that either party can, if it's not working, can break from the agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Slater. I do know there's a 5-year review, but I'll turn that over to Paul, who'll be able to clarify and give you some more information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Slater, and thanks, Chair. So, in terms of the actual lease itself, yes, it's to be a 25-year lease. And in terms of the advertisement that went out, advertising the Lorburn Hall for lease, it was indicated within that the tenant will have break options throughout the currency of the lease. So the answer is yes to the question. In terms of the amount of break clauses and the timing of those, that'll be for officers and property. But yeah, it's generally accepted that there's a 5-year break clause.
Thanks, Paul. Are you happy with that, Councillor Slater?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
I think we have Councillor Linda Dorward next.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. Thanks, Paul, for the report. Couple of questions concerning the same thing. So 3.7 on page 10 of the report talks about cost clarity with sought for each organisation regarding their respective financial offers. Fine. In terms of the Drill Hall initiative, it says 2 years rent-free, 3 years support for utility costs, current costs at 15k per annum, and then 2,000 per annum. And then, sorry, 12,000 per annum. In the page 17, which is the Drill Hall Initiative's application or bid, it says responsibility for utilities is met by DGC for the initial 3 years of the project. There's no sum there. And can I ask how it was worked out that the current cost, well, it says it would be, are you capping that at 15k per annum, proposing that that's a cap? And what does the 12k per annum thereafter mean? I'm not quite sure what that actually means. And the other question is, DGC will be responsible for extraordinary repairs. Can somebody define an extraordinary repair, please? Because I don't know what that means either. In terms of and what sort of financial cost may that mean for the council going forward? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dorward. Paul, would you like to answer those questions?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Dorward, and thanks, Chair. So two very good points. In terms of the utilities aspect, before the bids were scored and before the papers were produced, we had to clarify with each of the organisations to allow the cost exercise, the cost element of the score to be formed, we needed to derive a number. Now, what we did is we looked back at what the council had incurred as energy costs historically over the last 3 or 4 years, and it amounted to circa 15k per annum. So we discussed that with the group. We advised the group that any energy support would be capped at that amount, because that is the historical amount that the council had had incurred. And that was accepted before the costs elements were scored. So that's why if we offer any lease going forward, we have to be explicitly clear that those energy costs would be capped at 15k. The second part of that is regarding extraordinary repair. Again, during our clarification and before the bids were scored, we were very clear with the drill hole initiative that the advertisement was placed on the basis of a fully repairing lease. And as such, any lease entered into going forward would be on that basis. Again, that was accepted. So there will be no extraordinary repair, and that's the explanation as to why the energy costs would be capped at the historical value the council had incurred previously. Now, it might be that the energy costs for the building are in excess of that. It depends how the building's used. But in terms of being able to compare the two cost elements, we had to be very specific about that.
Thanks for that, Paul. Are you happy with that, Linda?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Paul. Where does the 12,000 per annum come in at the end of that on 3.7? What's the significance of that? Apologies for my not understanding basic arithmetic this morning.
No,
Thanks,
Paul, go
Councillor
ahead.
Dorward. So the drill hole initiative's offer is for £12,000 per annum. And the way we have scored them is in terms of a long-term lease. We scored the bids over 10 years. So the Electric Theatre's workshop, their offer was £2,000 per annum or a 5% share of profits, whichever is the greater. Now, because I can't quantify profits, I can't foresee the future, we had to go with what we knew the council would receive in actual money. So £2,000 per annum times 10 is the 20,000. Now, with regards to the drill hole initiative, they've offered 12k per annum with 2 years rent free and 3 years support for utility costs, which has been agreed as cap being the council's historic cost. So if you look at both of those in the round over a 10-year period, the Electric Theatre company, the income from it would be 20k, and the drill hole initiative's income, so the 12k per annum times the 10 minus the 3 years rent support and minus the 2 year rent free would amount to 51k. So that's how these bids were scored. I hope that's clear.
Is that clear, Councillor Dorward? You happy with that?
Much better, thank you. Thanks, Paul.
No worries, thank you. Councillor Keith Walters.
Yeah, I've got a similar question, but it's not been quite answered on 3.7 on page 10. So if you're comparing the incomes expected from the two bids, Electric Theatre Company 20,000, Drill Hall Initiative 51k, that seems very clear. But then presumably the 15 on 3.9, where it says that the council will be paying 15,000, maximum of 15,000 utilities cost support. So that's going to be 45,000 over the 3 years. So is that taken into account? Is that not taken? Should that not be taken into account into that figure of 51,000 of income? Because yes, it's all right saying the income is much substantially larger, but if the cost to the council is also larger, should that not be taken into account?
Thanks, Keith. I'll let you answer that, Paul.
Yeah, so the answer is it has been taken into account. So if you look at the proposal from the drill hole initiative, £12,000 per annum minus the 45k for energy support minus the 2 years rent free at 24k gets you to the 51,000 number. So it has been taken into account in terms of the cost element of the scoring.
Is that clearer, Councillor Walters?
It makes sense, yes. I'm not sure if it's clearer, actually, to be honest, but thank you anyway.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Good morning, Chair. Thanks. Good morning, Paul. Couple of questions, actually. One, you started down one of my tracks. would the successful applicant be able to transfer the lease? That was one question. Pass it on to a third party, for example, or is there a clause within the agreement that it has to return back to the council? And the other bit, which I'm more interested in, to be honest, is how do we decide the percentage split between quality and finance? Because I think, and following from that is how much weighting did we give the social benefit to the community? I'm very specific when I say social benefit because it's part of. I don't know who you've got here advising. Maybe it's Darren who's got to advise on the social benefit aspect of asset transfers. But one of the main linchpins of asset transfer is it's supposed to be for the community benefit. So how did you actually account for that? So there's three questions rolled into one there. Transfer release, how do we decide the percentage split? And then what did we take into account the social benefit to the population?
Thanks for that, Andy. I think, Paul, you possibly could answer the first question, and the other two, perhaps Catherine, but I'll be advised on that. So, Paul, if you could answer the first one.
Yep. So to answer the first question, normally there is no transfer of lease. So if the lease should end, then it comes back to the council. So there will be a clause within the lease that the building can't be subleased or the lease can't be assigned. That's normal. With regards to how we scored these, normally in a transaction like this, we would put a to let sign up and we would purely base our decision on the highest monetary value that has been received. We recognised through this, and one other thing, Councillor Ferguson, this is not a community asset transfer. This is the lease, long-term lease of a building for less than best consideration. I think we need to be clear that the two things are quite different. So we've offered the lease of the building over the long term. We have two very good organisations that are keen to secure that lease, and normally in a property transaction like this, it would be the highest offerer, i.e. the highest monetary value that would win. Because we recognised the importance within the community, it's a community, community-led organisations, it's a common good property. We did fairly articulate the way we would score this, and that we would put the onus on the quality side. So we, in terms of that cost quality split, 70% quality versus 30% cost. We sought guidance through the Scottish Government's guidance on disposal of land by local authorities regulations, and that's good practice in terms of making sure that we've considered not just this is how much we'll get for the building, but also what are the community benefits. And that's the way it's been, and that's the way it's been undertaken. But what I would say is that the exercise that we've undertaken has been undertaken in a very fair, open, transparent, and robust way. We've been very clear through this process how we would analyse and score the bids, and the information in front of you is the scoring of those based on the information received both at the closing date and through that clarifications period the papers were produced.
Thank you, Paul. Are you happy with that, Councillor Ferguson?
Thanks for the explanation, Paul. That's helped me no end, I can assure you. Thank you.
I think as well we have to take into account that the monetary value has a social impact and benefit as well, because that money goes into the common good pot, which in turn goes out to the community in the shape of grants and funding. So I think we take that consideration as well. Councillor Slater.
Yes, could you possibly tell me the directors of each group who's involved in the applications? Can you do that?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. You would like to know the directors of...
Well, yes, there are two groups, right? They obviously have management, and who obviously they have, if they have directors of their businesses, who are the directors of each group which are applying for this lease?
I believe that information's in their applications, David,
Okay.
in the papers.
Unless the gentleman there can help me on the screen, could he help with this?
They're in the papers in front of you, though, Councillor
All
Slater.
right, okay, thanks.
In their business plans. Sorry, Ivor, I think you, Councillor Hislop.
Back to 3.7. The 2 years rent-free, Paul, where was that picked up from? Because on page 28 of the Drill Hall Initiative papers, I think it's 16 of the actual bid document, lease payment £1,000 per month from August 2024. That makes a year.
Paul, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, thanks, Ivor. And it's a point that was noted through the scoring exercise. So again, during the clarifications period, before the bids were scored and before the papers were written, we went back to the Drill Hall Initiative. There is reference to that, but there's also reference to a 2-year rent-free period. So we asked them to clarify that. We explained that there is reference to rent-free being for a 1-year period, and there's also reference to a rent-free being a 2-year period. We asked them to clarify that as part of this process. And they came back and clarified it was a 2-year rent-free period they were looking for.
Is that okay, Ivor? Are you happy with that?
Yes, thanks.
Do we have any more questions from members? Does everyone have full clarity on this item? So no more questions? Don't see any online, nothing in the room. Then I'll go to recommendations. So members are asked to 1. Note the outcome of the Community Empowerment Scotland Act 2015, Section 104, consultation on the future leasing arrangements for the Lorburn Hall, as detailed at paragraph 3.4 and then Appendix 1. 2. Note the key milestones associated with the disposal of Lorburn Hall by the way of a long-term lease as detailed in paragraph 3.5. And 3. Agree to advertise the Lorburn Hall as a long-term leasing opportunity as detailed in paragraphs 3.7. And note the less than best consideration scoring framework being presented to the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee for approval. Sorry, is that wrong? Oh, I'll go back. Sorry, wrong recommendations on the papers.
Carol Hastings.
Sorry, I've got them here. Sorry, members, I'm reading out the wrong recommendations there. I was thinking as I was going along, I should have taken my own note. Right, sorry, we'll move to recommendations and note the number of bids submitted at paragraph 3.3. So that makes more sense. 2.2, note business plans associated with each bid, including the community benefits and disbenefits attached to Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. 2.3, note the outcome of the scoring framework panel in relation to the 2 less than best consideration bids received at paragraphs 3.5 to 3.8 included in the appendices, and 2.4, agree to recommend to Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee that the Council accepts the winning bid from Drill Hall Initiative CIC as identified at paragraph 3.8. Thank you, members. And we'll move to item number 5, the installation of the Norwegian Memorial Stone, presented by Scottish Norwegian Connection Association. Now, the Memorial Stone is the commemorative 80 years of friendship between the people of Norway and Dumfries and Galloway, first established during World War II. The stone is a gift of the Scottish Norwegian Connection Association. It was initially planned to have the installation of the memorial stone in September 2020, but unfortunately due to COVID-19 that was delayed. Now today members are being asked to consider and comment on the siting of the memorial stone at its proposed location next to Devergilla Bridge. Karen Brownlee is on Teams to answer any questions on report. Karen, do you have anything to add to the report?
Good morning, members. Thank you, Chair. No, nothing further to add to the report, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll move to any discussion. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, what was the reason for picking this site? Because my personal feeling is it's hidden out of the road. Going to the history of the Norwegian connection, I would have thought somewhere on the High Street would have been more appropriate next to the likes of the former Otons. I'm maybe showing my age there, which was known as Norway House, where they were actually stationed. I think this is something we should be celebrating. It feels like we're hiding this stone out the way. It might be where they want it placed, but I just don't think it's in a prominent enough position.
I hear you, Ivor. Karen, do you have any sort of clarity on why it's been placed where it is?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. My understanding is there have been discussions taking place in 2019 with the Scottish Norwegian Connection Association and the Council, and the location that is described within the report today was seen as the best location to install the stone. And as detailed within paragraph, sorry, bear with me, 3.8, it is also seen not to conflict with any other sort of developments in the area and provide an attraction addition to the town's landscape. So, as I say, that was a joint decision between both parties. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Is there a connection to that area with the Norwegian? Is there a reason why they've chosen that area? Because that's not clear. So I know there was discussions, but it's not clear why they actually chose that. There's some form of connection, because I'm kind of with Ivor on this one. It's something we possibly should be celebrating, and would there be a possibility to re-site, or we would have to go back to discussions?
I'm not aware of any specific connections, and if we were to look at other locations, we would require to go back to the Scottish Norwegian Association and also planning to discuss that further.
Thanks, Karen. Are you okay with that, Ivor? You got anything else to add?
I still think it's hidden out the road. We were asked to comment on it. That's my comment. I don't think it's prominent enough.
No, I hear you. I think when we're trying to do, again, when we see what's happened with the fountain and such, like we're trying to do town centre regeneration and get people into town centre, I'd be more inclined to think that it would have been better placed somewhere more noticeable, because you're going to have to go out your way unless you come in on the bus to go all the way down there. So I'm kind of with you there, Ivor. Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I tend to agree with Councillor Hislop as regarding it should be in a more prominent position for people to view it and see it. And it would hopefully bring more people into the High Street area. So that's just my feeling as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Slater. I think Liz wants to come. Liz Manson, you want to come in on this?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as the report indicates, this has been going on for some time, and it was actually Karen's predecessor, Jamie James, that had the initial conversations with the Norwegian colleagues about where best to site it. And my recollection is that the discussion was very much about this would be part of the sort of land around the White Sands. It would be an attractive place for people to walk. And they felt that it fitted in with the Devergilla Bridge and that sort of area of the town. It would add to that sort of the work that was going on to make that an attractive place for visitors and people to come along to. So as Karen said, you know, if you want to decide today that yes, you're comfortable with this proposal, but we would also speak to the Norwegian Association about an alternative if you were comfortable with both of these options, and then we could talk to them about that other proposal. But it certainly there was no limitation at the time put on where the stone would be, and this was very much they felt it would add to the townscape in that location. Thank you. Hope that little bit of history is helpful. Thanks.
No, thanks, Liz. Councillor Dorward.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Karen. It's interesting, isn't it? We all have our own specific feelings about where a monument should be sited, and I totally understand why folk would want it perhaps more in the town centre. But I think the other part is that a lot of folk walk along the White Sands. You're looking at active travel. You're looking at encouraging folk to walk. A lot of folk come to see the Devergilla Bridge and go across there up to Maxwell Town, to the Burns Museum, etc., etc. So for me, just to be contrary, I think it's actually sited in a reasonably good position, and it's an area that needs, as much as anywhere else, needs to increase the footfall. So the White Sands, that area, the challenges we'll have down there with, dare I say, annual flooding and things, I think it's an area that needs maximised footfall as well. So I wouldn't have a problem with it being there. I don't have a problem with it being the majority, but I think that's a reasonable enough place for it to be, because there's quite a lot of footfall along there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dorward. That's a question that's just sprung to mind that you've mentioned there about the flooding. What's the fabric, what's the material of the stone, and what's its durability if it's got constantly wet, flooding? No, I'm asking you, Karen, sorry. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Apologies, members. I was struggling to get my mic off there. The location and prominence of that stone, as you know, sits quite high. The stone makeup, and I might need to actually confirm this with members, but my understanding is, unless Liz can pop back in, but my understanding is it is a granite stone potentially, but I would have to absolutely clarify that with you.
Thanks, Karen. So it's a hard stone, so it's been more durable. Thanks for that. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Chairman. Not that I want to bring in the White Sands Flood Protection Scheme, but bearing in mind that this is still a live scheme, and it's a decision's yet to be made whether or not it will continue as it has been approved, or it may not be. But the location, it would appear that this would be right in the middle of the flood protection scheme, should it go ahead. Has that been taken into consideration?
Thanks, Ian. Yes, that was a question I thought at the time. So, Karen, what's the situation with that?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Members, I can confirm that I have been in discussions with the flood protection scheme, and as and when that scheme progresses and goes ahead, then the Norwegian stone would form part of that overall project going forward. So nothing would be lost. And in time, if there is a requirement to then relocate at a future point, then that would be considered and be part of the, as I say, the future flood protection scheme for the White Sands.
Thanks, Karen. Are you happy with that, Ian?
Yeah, I'm happy with the response. It's just what I expected, that if in fact the scheme did go ahead, it would need to be relocated. I think that's clear.
I think Karen's also. I think Karen's also saying it would be incorporated in the design if possible.
Oh, no doubt in that. It could be incorporated in a design should the scheme go ahead, but it would have to be relocated. In other words, it would be placed in position now, and then should the scheme come into life at any particular time, it would then need to be relocated, albeit to another part on the site. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Councillor Slater?
Thanks, Chair. That area doesn't really flood at that point. You don't get flooding on the top end of the bridge. It's always below the bridge because the water initially comes in the sandy opening and it spreads across the car parks from there. But it never really floods where that stone will probably sit. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for that bit of added information, David. That's appreciated. Any other questions? No? No one else to speak? Okay, so I will move to recommendations. 2.1, note the memorial stone gift being presented to Dumfries and District by the Scottish Norwegian Connection Association. And 2.2, consider and comment on the proposed location of the siting of the memorial stone as detailed in paragraph 3.7 and 3.8 and the appendix. Are members happy? Yes, Ivor?
Will the comments be taken back to the Norwegians? That's the only thing, because there seems to be a split view on whether it's actually located in that area or somewhere else. So I think, my personal view is I would rather have it somewhere else. As a member of the public said this morning, it's a grand bit to squat behind if you're needing a pee and the toilets are shut. That was one comment from a member of the public today. So I just don't like the location of it.
No, that's noted. And Karen and Liz, I think Liz had indicated that could go back in for extra talks. Is that right, Liz?
Yes, we'll be very happy to talk to them if members are comfortable with either of these locations, and we can certainly give you a briefing about the outcome of the conversations that Karen and I can have with the Norwegian Association.
Thanks, Liz. Ivor, would you like it to be an extra recommendation, or are you just happy that Liz will go and speak to them?
I take it the officers will go and speak to them and they'll reflect the comments of the Common Goods Committee to them, and they can take that on board.
That's great, thanks. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Karen. So I have no items of urgent business, and I'd like to thank everybody for your attendance. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.